60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
Now, since 1999, when Nigeria returned to democratic practice, it would appear that the same people have governed her former capital, Lagos State, albeit under different political associations. So we've had Alliance for Democracy, AD, we had Action Congress, AC, which metamorphosed into Action Congress of Nigeria, ACN, and today we have the All Progressives Congress, the ruling party in Lagos State, APC. In 2023, 18 political parties will be contesting the presidential seat here in Nigeria. Now, of those 18 parties, 15 will be fielding candidates in the 2023 governorship election in Lagos State. And as political watchers speculate that the focus of the strong man of Lagos politics, and incidentally he is the presidential candidate of the APC, many people speculate that as he's distracted with the presidential seat, perhaps he's left his flanks open for somebody else to take over in Lagos. So I suppose the question is, will the APC and its power of incumbency retain Lagos State in 2023? He is the leader of our Lagos movement, and he calls himself the architect of a new Lagos. The candidate of the Labour Party in 2023 for the seat of the governor of Lagos State, Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, joins me on the program today. I just wanted to clear something. You are a core Lagosian. You're one of those that they say are indigent.
Very proudly so. We're from Lagos Island. Family house used to be on 38 Igbosheri, right, where the current city hall stands. Wow. Family had to give up that land in exchange for some other properties, but for the bigger interests of Lagos. Yeah. So we're very, very proud Lagosians.
And I asked that question because core Lagosians, like yourself, I suppose, you know, they're all just so angry. Yes. You know, and they're angry because, as far as I'm concerned, you all were caught napping, and then a man allegedly from Osun State comes in, yes, takes over your state, yeah, locks it down since 1999, yeah, and you all want him out. The question for me is, why do you want him out? Not because Lagos is not doing well. Most people want him out because they consider that core Lagosians have been relegated to the back seat. Must a state only be governed by people who come from that state?
So let's first start with the fact that you will never find a core Lagosian or any of the Lagos families complaining about Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, who was not a Lagosian. But he was excellent at what he did. He put the people first, and it showed in everything he did. It showed in the policies that he implemented. It shows in the way he lived his life. It showed in his disposition towards putting Lagos first. The second layer is how Lagos has been run in such an opaque way that just seems to serve only one man, his family, and his cronies. And the idea that Lagos State almost seems to be forced to be the Commonwealth of the Yoruba people. But that same Commonwealth is not given to Lagosians, right? I cannot go and be governor in Oyo or Osun or Ekiti just because I've lived there for a long time. I mean, an Ogbomoso man will find it difficult becoming governor of Oyo because it's not from Ibadan. And I believe that if that was also quid pro quo in their own states, and in Lagosian and Anima Sharon can go and govern Osun State, then surely maybe we can now say that is fair, but that's not the case, right? These are their realities, and we also feel that, like I said, people don't complain about that. There's no Lagos engine that complains about Alhaji Lateef Jakonde. In fact, they try to claim him as a Lagosian. You know? But the conversation is, what are they doing with our Commonwealth? And how has this been spent? And how is this helping further the cause and the culture of what it means to be a Lagosian? Because there is an inherent culture. It's not just a Yoruba. People say it's a Yoruba land. No, the Lagosian is a welcoming, tolerant. When you meet the Awori, the temperance of an Awori is a welcoming one. It's okay, come, get settled, you can work. And that is why people migrate to Lagos the way they do. It's not just because of the Third Mainland Bridge. Lagos was a trade port way before there was any colonial government. I mean, we know the story of how the Oba of Benin sent people here. They were already fishermen, they were already trading. Right? So it's a welcoming place, and people of Lagos are welcoming people, and they have their own culture. And the people that have been in charge of Lagos for the last 20 years do not embody that. We see the threats of drowning people in the lagoon when it's time for elections. We see that in the harassment of people that they feel are not going to vote their interests and closing down their markets. So that's not Lagos, and we need a government that embodies what Lagos is. Well, I think the bane of contention is how we see the reckless spending of our Commonwealth, and the manifestation of the APC today and for the last couple of over a decade has been non-Lagosian. The culture, which is constantly trying to stifle businesses, which is constantly trying to alienate different groups of people because of the language that they speak. And also one where you find there is a use of thuggery, a weaponization of poverty, and instead of delivering good governance and accountability, a consistent measure to suppress votes, to use, to buy votes, and to use thuggery. You know, that elevation of thuggery to high political class, that is not Lagosian either. And these are reasons why people that form the foundational members of Lagos State are extremely angry and want a situation where their Commonwealth is managed in the interest of Lagosians and in the interest of a greater Lagos, because we feel that the culture and the idea of what we are will be reflected better if somebody that imbibes those values is at the helm of affairs.
So honestly, why did you leave the PDP? If Jandor had listened to the elders of the party and made you his running mate instead of him unilaterally appointing his running mate, would you have left the PDP or party?
Okay, so the PDP in itself in Lagos is, I have no gripe with it, right? I joined the PDP after contesting under the Kowa party because the PDP represents, at the time, a significant opposition to everything I disliked about what was going on in Lagos, right? And I've never been an opportunist. I believe in the good fight. I believe that if you want to make a difference, you need to actually put in the work. So I'm not somebody that, if you can't beat them, join them. I've never been that type of person. So the PDP epitomized that for me at the time. Now, like you just said, leaders in the party, not just Chief Bode George, I mean, several BOT members, 20 local government chairmen endorsed me. And let it be said, for me, I was not terribly excited to be deputy. I had built my structures ready to go into a contest. I was a gubernatorial aspirant, right? I had my structures that I had nurtured and built for the last 2-3 years in the party. I contested for Senate in 2019. As a candidate, I had the most votes in the party after Atiku Abubakar, as Senator for Lagos West. So I was running to be governor. Now, leaders are people that, you know, if you stand, you cannot see how far they are seeing. And they have a vast amount of experience. And I know these people meant well for the party, for myself, and for the eventual flag bearer. Yes. And they gave advice, and they gave an agreement, and it was based on the advice that I withdrew. My delegates were in the hall waiting for me. If you followed that primary, you find that I was the last person to withdraw. Yes. Literally at the door, I did a handwritten letter of withdrawal, because my leaders called me and said, listen, you are younger than this man, you guys work together, you'll make the perfect ticket, and you'll be able to then run for governor in 8 years' time. You'd have built yourself in government and all of that. And you know, when leaders talk to you like that, you know that they can, where they can see when they are sitting down, you cannot see standing up.
Yes.
So I accepted it, but I have put it on record to say that I was going for governor. Right now, in the event that one listened to the leaders and listened to advice and that worked out, then fine, I would have stayed in the party. But like we said, and like what happened, he clearly did not really reckon with their advice and what they had to say. So I felt it's important to chase my ambition on another platform.
Political base, financial power, popularity, or what I call street credibility. Do you have these three?
I do, and more. But what is even more interesting is we are changing the entire demographic of voters in Lagos State. You see, for so long, the demography of who comes out to vote has been controlled and dominated by a party, the APC. And they've created a narrative around it. You know, it's the NRTW, it's the Iyalojas. Those are the people. And the middle class, the working class, the upwardly mobile, the elites sit down in their houses and they don't participate.
On election day, it's a holiday.
On election day, it's a holiday. They watch Netflix and chill. They go and play football. But this is the thing. With 20 years of governing Lagos and apparently doing a good job, less than 17% of people turn out to vote. That in itself is a failure.
It is.
It's a failure. And in that 17%, you find that probably 10% is going to the APC, 7% is going to the PDP. So 10%. That's voter apathy. It's an indictment on what goes on in Lagos. It's an indictment on what people perceive as good governance and even the electioneering process. And that's why I'm so happy and so passionate about the obedient movement, because now, for the first time, we're not leaving politics to the politicians. The people are autonomously mobilizing themselves. They're not waiting for your money. They're not waiting for your handouts or incentives. They're getting their act together. They understand that politics and governance is a dialogue, is a two-way street. They want to put in servant leaders.
Because you can't demand governance if you're not participating in the politics.
Exactly. So the whole idea that to be a great politician, you just need to be able to crack some jokes. You have to be able to hang out with the area boys, and you have to have money to buy elections. We are trying to change that. In fact, we are not trying to, we are dismantling it. Because when you see a person like our incoming president, by God's grace, His Excellency Peter Obi, the intellectual capacity, the humility, the charisma, and his capacity to speak to issues and have in-depth knowledge of issues. And then you see that he not just go and select a vice president that was just known on the streets, so a mobilizer or a typical politician. He chose somebody that's equally as cerebral, equally as visionary, right? So a brand has been created. And then you come to Lagos State. I'm an MIT graduate in architecture. So when I say I'm the architect of a new Lagos, it's not just a name that we are throwing up. I have massive experience with urban planning. I worked with the American government when New Orleans happened with Hurricane Katrina. I worked with the government when the Chinese Olympics were about to happen, and they were debating how they'll manage the traditional setup of their housing. in relation to the high pressure of land that's happening because they're building a lot of towers. I worked with Chinese government on that as well. So I'm not, we can visualize and envision a Lagos that works for the people. And there's a brand that says there must be integrity without baggage. There must be cerebral capacity. There must be empathy and a desire for putting the people first. So we're trying to, what we're doing is we want to revolutionize the way politics is done so that after 2023, if somebody's sole claim to be able to govern is he is funny, people like him, and
he cracks jokes,
and he can dance on stage and people clap, he will reconsider coming out for office, because governance is serious business. It's not entertainment. It should not be a popularity contest, and that is what has got us in the mess that we have been in as a country. We have been constantly nosediving because the quality of minds that we leave to lead and control the destiny of over 200 million people are not deserving of it. They do not have the capacity for it. Right? Look at the cerebral minds that run the countries that we go and borrow money from, that run the countries that we go on vacation or send our children to school.
Yes.
They are not people that are entertainers or have street credibility. There are people that understand the economics of things. There are people that understand how to envision and vision and in the interest of their people.
I'm listening to you, Mr. Rhodes-Vivour, and I'm thinking, what a tough job you're going to have, because you have to change the mindset. There is an orientation. I deal a lot with government. You understand?
Yes.
How do you want to change that mindset of a typical civil servant? For instance, you get to a ministry at 10 and they haven't resumed.
Well, you start by being what you want, by being the change you want to be. If as a leader of government you are getting to the office at 7, people will need to sit up. If as a leader of government you are showing that you have a distaste for waste, you believe in efficiency, you believe in system-driven and data-driven approach to governance, then people will have to keep up. And if they cannot keep up, they'll be sidelined, right? And this will also be done not without a human face or not without empathy, but a situation where if now you want to move ahead and move Lagos forward, there'll be skill acquisition exercises that will be done, training, right? And the people that excel in that will be the ones that will be at the vanguard of this new government. But if people think that what is just going to be on the table is what has been for the last 20 years, inefficiency, extreme levels of corruption, situations where to get a plan approval for a building, you have to pay significant bribes, and then, I mean, if I'm paying bribes to get plan approval for a building, why would I take you seriously when you're saying that my structure is not standing properly?
Not safe.
I'll just think about giving you more money.
Yes.
But corruption kills. We've seen this in the building collapses that have happened in Lagos this year alone.
Yes.
Right? So we need to understand the seriousness of governance and also the idea that, listen, if we do not take this seriously, in the next 20, 30 years, the population of Lagos will be hitting about 40 to 50 million. And most of those will be young people. And if we have not developed and created opportunities, used their resources efficiently, these people will not have anything to do. And you know what they say about an idle mind, right? And we're already dealing with that. I mean, people are moving around, they're being harassed by youth that have political backing, because that's where they get the boldness to do what they do.
Yes.
And they are used during political season. So these things need to change. We need to create a situation where we are producing a highly skilled workforce. We are giving them the opportunity to have these skills, and we are encouraging and enabling an environment for companies and industries to come into Lagos. Even if we say Lagos State is going to be service-centered and service-driven, and even expanding value chains so that we're processing, because we have a comparative advantage of being close to the ports.
Water, yes.
Right? 8 out of 10 containers that come to Nigeria leave empty. And this is also one of the problems that we have with their papa ports, right? And we need a situation where we are creating jobs and even exporting jobs. I mean, if you're building a building in Lagos, or even Nigeria, you want to do POP, you go to Cotonou and get people to come in. You want to do quality tiling, you go to Cotonou or Togo and get people to come in. That should not be the case, where we have so many young people that are looking for work.
Join us again after the break. pushed you into politics? Because you've talked about MIT, you know, you worked, you know, abroad, well-spoken, got a good practice, an impressive office. You're an architect. You don't need to be governor. What pushed you into politics?
I come from a family that's always served. And that's just the truth. My family produced the second ever Nigerian judge, right? And the first Nigerian that was admitted into Privy Council under Governor Bodilon's government, Justice S.B. Rhodes, who became justice.
Yes.
But even aside from that, and judges down the road, but even aside from that, that's me retrospecting.
Right.
But if I think of my personal experience, I do not have the capacity to see bad things happening and just be okay.
Yes.
I cannot thrive if I'm not doing something about it. So I have two choices. Either I relocate outside the country or I get involved and do something about it. That's how I'll keep my inner peace.
Your sanity.
Yes, the journey into politics started from activism. Generally, problems with Nigeria I felt were problems that could be solved by leadership.
Yes.
If we did this, we'll be able to get this solution. But at a point, the Nigerian government was trying to put into policy introduction of genetic modified foods.
GMOs. Yes.
And the detrimental effect of it is so multifaceted, from losing our trade partners to the health effects of it on the body, to even just losing our food sovereignty. And it's something that has a permanent effect, or even one that you can only turn over maybe 30, 40 years after.
Down the line. Explain to the viewer, though,
Yes.
what are genetically modified
So
foods?
these are foods that have been manipulated scientifically and genetically to give it certain traits. But generally, there are also the sides of it where, for instance, you plant corn,
Yes.
the seeds that come out from that corn, you cannot replant it again.
It won't grow.
It won't grow. So you are dependent on that multinational to buy seeds again and replant. And even a natural variety, you plant it on that same soil, it will not grow. Right? So it's a way of taking food sovereignty away. At the time, the European Union had banned it. So most of our exports then were going to Europe.
Yes.
And we'll lose trade partners in relation to that. And then we don't regulate or monitor
These things. Yes.
So this is a very dangerous thing to bring into the system. So I literally dedicated 3 years of my life advocating against this thing, you know, educating Nigerians, debating the Minister of Agriculture at the time, debating the DG of all the agencies in charge, and it climaxed in being part of the leaders of a 2,000-man march on the Senate.
Right.
And the Senate had prior notice that we're coming, and they knew the material and conversation we're having. But they came out and all they talked about was how they were two-time governors and who they were.
Yes.
And I was so disappointed.
They didn't have real substance.
Nothing. There was no substance. I was so disappointed that in 5 seconds I said I'm going to politics. I came back to Lagos and decided I must go into politics because you cannot carry placards and expect that you touch the heart of somebody that doesn't have empathy.
Yes.
You are deceiving yourself.
Yes.
We need people with empathy that are actually controlling at the helm of affairs in this country. People that mean well, right? And I felt, you know what, I'm going to get into politics. And I contested for local government chairman of Ikeja under the Kowa party.
Yes.
And it was that process and understanding politics, especially at the grassroots level, mobilizing and all of that, that let me feel, you know, I need to go to the PDP. They have structure. They are on the same side as I am, especially with relation to the matters of Lagos, the opposition of, you know, the fretting away of our Commonwealth,
Yes.
the appreciation for indigenship rights in Lagos State. You find that the PDP always tries to push, at least at the high levels, governor, senator, indigenes of Lagos,
Yes.
right? And also just the idea that the PDP at the time was a national party. So I joined the PDP. I'm not an opportunist. Like I said,
Right.
I'm ready to fight the good fight, right? I don't believe in beating them and joining them. So that's how that journey happened.
Yes, you talked about the PDP now. You said you joined them because they had structure. You know, one of the criticisms of the Labour Party and of course its presidential candidate moving from PDP to the Labour Party is that the Labour Party has no structure.
Now, the question is this.
Yes.
What is the structure used for? So, if you are looking at structure because you want to buy votes, you are looking at structure because you want to share money, you are looking at structure. I mean, the advantages of structure, one is like, for instance, if you want to place your posters all over Lagos State.
You got people.
You call your
foot
meetings.
soldiers, yes.
But you just said something. You've got people. Labour Party has people and more. Right? Labour Party is not having to preach that gets involved. The people are already ready.
And
they say, come into our building. They say, show us where we should come into. That's the difference.
Yes.
So the conversation with structure with Labour Party is a bit, it doesn't make sense because the dynamic has changed. You didn't find people like just mobilizing and getting the closest that comes to this obedient movement now was what happened in 2015 with the Say Buhari movement, right? And even that was very manufactured, it was very controlled, you know, it was very, you know, put together, machinated. With this is autonomous. The people are organically moving all over the country.
Yes.
So, and that also with the fact that now we can transfer results directly from the polling units.
So you don't need anyone to monitor your votes at the polling units?
We must, because we're still in Nigeria. We cannot take things for granted, right? We cannot be lulled into a false sense of security, right? We must ensure that the votes of these people that have come out and have rekindled this hope for a new Nigeria is not dashed, because that's even more dangerous.
Yes.
Because that kills voter apathy, that creates voter apathy. And when you have voter apathy, everything just trudges along. You don't get that burst of new change, of new life in a country's life and history. You know, so we must ensure that as people are coming out, they are not disappointed.
Yes.
That the voice of the people truly, like they say, is the voice of God. We must ensure that nobody cuts that short.
You've talked about the presidential candidate of your party, Peter Obi. I want you to give an honest assessment of his chances in 2023. I think that the movement is doing great and it will yield results in 2027, not 2023.
I believe that Peter Obi is our next president. I mean, you saw the ANA polls, right?
Yes.
Some people might want to critique it because they don't favor them.
Yes.
But those numbers and the regions, when you look at it and see how it played out, there's a lot of truth to that. Now, obviously, there are elements that were not considered. Where are they going to potentially rig? How would they rig? What will happen in places like Borno? How are they going to bring votes that they might try to use to cover places where he will win?
Yes.
So those are practical things that the party and the structure which we're building is going to have to look into.
Yes. You think Peter Obi will win 24 states, 2/3 of the states we have?
Oh yes. Oh yes. You have the South-South, you have the Southeast, you have Lagos State.
South-South and Southeast, there are 11 states there.
You have Lagos.
And you know some states in the South-South and Southeast still like PDP. They will still vote for PDP. The governor of Delta is the running mate in PDP. That must count for something.
So you see, why do people like PDP? At the time, PDP stood for something, which was
the national outlook.
Exactly. The embodiment of rotation, the embodiment of people feeling a sense of belonging, right? And that was particularly attractive to especially Southerners, because before Chief Olusegun Obasanjo became president, there had been a serious level of domination of the North.
Yes.
And it really relegated Southerners to less than number one, like they were second class citizens.
Yes.
That was really what it was. And a lot of people had come to accept that reality, right? So the PDP offered the South a chance of, reclaiming their position in government and in Nigeria as a whole. So that's the first thing. And then the idea of rotation.
Yes.
So you found a man from Bielsa could become president, right? These are things that endeared the South-South and Southeast. Now you're telling those same people that they should witness Nigeria having been governed by a Fulani Muslim for 8 years and have to vote in another Fulani Muslim for another 8 years.
16 unbroken years.
That is not what Nigeria is. It isn't. We are a collection of multi-ethnic nations that were put together not because we agreed, but because the British felt that it was convenient for their enterprise.
Yes.
And this negotiation is yet to happen for us to see, okay, this is the collective will of us, the people. We the people.
Yes.
That's why everybody's clamoring for restructuring. This is yet to happen. And as it's yet to happen, you expect that these same people in the South, I mean, when you look at Atiku's results in 2019, he was a Southern candidate.
Yes.
His votes came from the South, right? And that was because of something. He represented at the time somebody that was, not as conservative, someone that was more liberal, someone that, had Southern allies, and that's why the South embraced him. But you cannot pretend as though Nigeria has been in a time capsule or PDP has been in a time capsule. You can't do that. So those numbers, just like how the Ebonyi, for instance, went to the APC, or you have Ayade going to the APC. Those people are not goats, they are not cows. They have their own desire for what they want Nigeria to be and how representative they want Nigeria to be. And the truth is, in favor of justice and equity, right? Even if you ignore his charisma, ignore his capacity for governance, his intelligence, his track record, ignore his youthful energy that allows him to be in all these places at the same time, the kind of energy you need to govern a place like Nigeria. Ignore all of that and say, okay, let's ignore all that. It is time, it is just for power to come to the Southeast. And people know that. And they will do the right thing.
Join us again after the break. My concluding moments now with Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour. He's the Labour Party Governorship Candidate for the elections in 2023 for the seat of the governor in Lagos State. You talked about the Southeast, that it is the turn of the Southeast. I've always posited that power is not served a la carte. Anyone who wants power must reach out across the aisle to negotiate power to come to them. The problem, I think, with the Southeast has always been a sense of entitlement. We're marginalized, so it should be given to us. And that's where I think the problem lies. This feeling that they're marginalized and we should gift it to them.
I'll beg to differ, because every group has their own language that they use to try and get power.
Right.
The Hausa Fulani will say is his entitlement. It was handed control of Nigeria by the British before they left.
Yes.
And it's their destiny to dip the Quran in the Atlantic Ocean. So they'll continue marching downwards. That's their approach, right? The Yoruba man will say, MQ Abiola died, and he died in trying to get democracy. So it is our turn, right? The Southeast, the South will say, we fund your entire project, we fund your entire enterprise in Nigeria. And look at us. The oil is for Nigeria, but the spoil of the land, the pollution is for the South. So we give us presidency. So, I mean, everybody tries to put their best foot forward to say, these are the reasons why we need to have it. And like I said, until we truly restructure this country, then where you're from or what national identity you have will not matter. But until then, for Nigeria to be peaceful, for Nigerians to feel a sense of belonging, for Nigeria to work as one, there must be a level of rotation. And this is not foreign to other countries. In Switzerland, their own process is moving from one cantonment to another. The EU pretty much rotates. It goes from one country to another, right? Because they are national identities. And unfortunately, we just look at Nigeria as a country, but no, Nigeria is not just a country. We had the Yoruba national identity that went all southwest, going down the west, Togo, even ancient parts of Ghana, right? You had the north, you had the south coming down into the Cameroons, right? So these are not just people, they are kingdoms. And as such, there must be rotation so that people feel a sense of representation, people feel a sense of belonging. And you cannot take that away from a multi-ethnic kind of national union that we have, right? So I feel that what's extremely important now is for equity and justice. We must give the Southeast a place of position on the national table. For too long, they've been discriminated against, especially with wounds that happen from Biafra that have not yet fully healed.
Yes. So at least the number 1 and number 2 seats, they should have a taste of that as well. Yes. Now, you do realize that the governorship elections are held after the presidential election. If Peter Obi does not win the presidential election, you do realize it will probably affect your vote as well in the governorship election coming afterwards.
Yeah, and when Peter Obi wins, it's going to affect it as well, right? It's politics, you know,
Yes.
It's a game of numbers. And regardless, we're putting up a good fight. Because this is even bigger than this election. It's a situation where we're trying to create a new voter demographic. We want to say that, you know, you that have good ideas for what Lagos should be, you that you're paying your taxes, you that you're complaining about how it's being governed, come and have a voice, come and get involved, come and participate. And that's what we're going to fight for through it all.
Yes.
Right? So I believe we're going to do extremely well in Lagos. I believe Peter Obi is going to win Lagos State because this is the home base of the obedient movement. Lagos State is the most cosmopolitan state in Nigeria. It's a state where ideas can cross-fertilize.
Yes.
And people are excited. Like I said, it is the center of excellence. Excellence is not one that is trapped by your identity or where you are from.
Yes.
Excellence is about this person does a good job and you know you excel and you mix and you have ideas. So a state like Lagos would appreciate a leader like Peter Obi that has this high cerebral capacity and they will vote for him and see past all these other things that the other parties are trying to throw up, which is, oh, he's from this place, or,
yes,
you know. So I feel very confident that we're going to take Lagos and in turn also take Lagos.
And if Babajide Sanwo-Olu has a godfather in the presidential candidate of the APC, some say you have a godfather too in Chief Bode George.
Chief Bode George is a mentor to me. He's a family friend. He's someone that has always meant well for me. So, and like many leaders, not just in the party, in Lagos, because I represent a son that they're looking at like, okay, go and fight that good fight.
Yes.
So every well-meaning Lagosian is looking at this and supporting me, right? And they're excited that I'm courageous enough to do this, right? So in relation to saying someone has a godfather, I have mentors. I have many leaders that care about my interests. But this is what it is. A mentor can call you and say, you need to be careful about your security. You need to go and see this person, make sure your security is intact.
You need to put somebody for me in office. What if your mentor says, you know, I've got a niece, she's really good. I think she would make a good special advisor. That's where the godfatherism thing starts from.
Okay, so now the question is that person excellent?
Qualified.
Excellent. I'm going past qualified.
Right.
Qualified is mediocre. You can come out from school with a 2-2 or a 3rd class, you are qualified. But are you excellent? Right? So I am looking for excellence. That's the trademark that I want to leave in Lagos. I need to restore Lagos to the center of excellence. Now, and you find it, Peter Obi did it successfully in Anambra. You cannot say you're a family friend and all of a sudden you want to do contract for road. He will ask you, when did you get the experience of building road? I did not know
Have you built road before?
Not just does your company do roads? What are you a specialist in? What are you good in? It's about putting, fixing circle, how they say, round pegs in round holes. That's it, right? And also, I assure you that I will not be encumbered the way current governor is, by a godfather that is constantly demanding this and that from the state, from alpha, beta to all the other things that money is being taken away from, and without any sense of accountability or transparency.
What can be wrong with alpha beta, Mr. Rhodes-Vivour? Listen, a state is generating 400 million naira as internally regenerated revenue, and then they come up with this formula that says that if you hire this company to collect your taxes, you can exponentially increase the amount of revenue that you get.
Okay, you increase it. It hasn't really increased significantly since for the last 15 years. I mean, increased exponential at the point, and then it's been diminishing. Percentage increase. The amount that they even say they generate is highly
controversial.
And the conversation as well should be, with all the suffering in Lagos, with the slow pace of development, with people sitting out in traffic for 4 hours every day, with the high amount of youth unemployment, with the poor state of our healthcare system, very few people have access to quality healthcare because a lot of them can't even afford medical insurance. How can you justify paying these sums of amounts to a company that barely has how many staff? What are they really still doing?
Yes.
So if you use, and also we must get away from accepting mediocrity and just, oh, he was a former, the ties to somebody being a drug dealer, it's okay, we see past that. There's ties to bribery and corruption,
we move on.
We just move on. No. That time it's time to go. See, Nigeria is going to get very soon to a population size of 400 million. We do not have the way we manage our resources now. We will not survive. Because having those many young people, we are already seeing what's happening in the north with Boko Haram and all of that. That can also happen in the south with huge amounts of unemployment. So our resources must be used efficiently to ensure that people have enough opportunities, right? Every resource should be used to ensure that people have maximum opportunities. Their businesses can thrive so that they can hire more people. They can employ more people. They are productive.
Yes.
And that's also what His Excellency Peter Obi keeps driving on. And that is why his point is so important. We must move from consumption to production, right? And we must do that also in Lagos State because we have a huge population of young people.
And people say they wish that he had moved from consumption to production when he was governor of Anambra State, because he was known for importing a lot of stuff that he was selling in the family business, the supermarket or whatever.
But I'm sure that they also know that he invested a lot in local manufacturing and invested the state's money a lot in that as well. So,
yes.
For me, bringing it to Lagos, like I said, and I want in Lagos that Latif Jakonde will say and be proud of, and see that we've taken to an even higher level than he took it. Right?
You can't say that the APC, the ACN, the AD have not achieved anything since 1999.
I cannot say they've not achieved anything.
Yes.
But I can say that with the level of resources available to them,
yes,
and the platform on which they started. I mean, Third Mainland Bridge was already built. Lagos State was both the political and commercial capital before they became, the caliber of people that have lived in Lagos State, that have spread their influence in Lagos State. The fight against colonialism started in Lagos State. It's unfortunate that history only starts from 1960.
Yes.
Henry Carr lived here. Alakija lived here. Cardoso lived here. Kitoya Jasa lived here. These are excellent people in everything that they did. They set a standard, right? So, yes, they've achieved things in slow increments and they've done things, but the military did much more than they did.
Yes.
And the thing is, resources have accumulated over a long amount of time. And you find that the state has just been run in the interest of one man, his family, and his cronies. And Lagos State is stifled. So we need to move forward. It's time for the people. They've had their time. It's okay. They've done their best. It's now time for the people of Lagos State. It's time. Let them enjoy it for 20 years. right? Let's put them first.
Now, your assertion that the combination of governors in Lagos State since 1999 did not achieve what Lateef Kayode-Jakonde achieved in his time. How
Yes.
so?
Well, he was in power for 4.5, or not even up to 4.5 years. He engaged in massive reforms in the education system that most of these people that currently were beneficiaries of.
Yes.
He engaged in moving the healthcare system so far forward, general hospitals in local governments, ensuring that people had access to healthcare. His housing plan, opening up so many places and actually creating affordable housing that got to the people that needed it. No situation where you are building affordable housing and then you are selling it amongst yourselves before it even makes itself available to the public, right? And then you see what he did in terms of roads and opening up Lagos, all that Ojo, Badagry axis, right? And he even was about to start the light rail that our current president, stopped. And unfortunately, we had to pay so much in cancelling that could even have finished the light rail, right? So this was a man that was ahead of his time. He was not somebody that was in government before. And maybe that's why he was so revolutionary. In fact, dare I say, that's the reason why he was so revolutionary. Because the people, the caliber of politicians we had, Awolowo himself, they were not perfect. Nobody is. But there is no denying that these people meant well for their people.
And you're saying that the APC, its candidate, the governor of Lagos, don't mean well for the people?
Well, they might, but they're significantly encumbered because they run a Chicago mafia-style type government. That's simply what it is. Businesses are being stifled. They're being overtaxed. It's almost as though it's a crime to be successful in Lagos State. Right? Because they're coming to shut your building down. They're trying to raise revenue for this or that, or maybe somebody's contesting elections now. They need more money.
But they say mega cities need it's not cheap to live in London. It's not cheap to live in New York. It shouldn't be cheap
but
to
then,
live
but
in
then I
Lagos.
should get the appropriate services as well. I should not be sitting down in 4 hours traffic. I should come out of my house, potentially park my car at a very nice parking and get into a boat and get to Marina. And I should feel safe. I should not be harassed by thugs on the streets, right? If I'm paying my taxes, I should have healthcare insurance that I have access to. I should not go into the hospital and I'm sitting down waiting for treatment for almost 3-4 hours, and if something happens to me, they tell me that I should go and say Babalao, or there is no oxygen in the hospital, or NEPA is taking life, so an operation cannot happen.
Yes.
There must be things that accompany me paying my taxes.
Yes.
Right? And that's what we are not seeing in Lagos State. There's no accountability for it. Instead, we're seeing people living fat on it, appropriating assets. Land alone that has been appropriated by these people, right, is enough to fund so much in Lagos State. And think about it. Land is money locked down.
Yes.
If we have this land and we sell it at an affordable price to Lagosians, first, you're getting them on the housing ladder. You're giving them equity. Second, you're raising revenue that you can use.
Equity.
Yes. And you're raising revenue that you can use to push projects that were beneficial to people. Not that I have a hospital that my brother is now the one running the diagnostic center in the hospital, or I'm doing BRT buses. My brother or my cousin is the one in charge of the revenue collection for the BRT buses. Or you see, it's so stifled because the system runs in such a way that for any project to work in Lagos, these people that have conducted state capture, the political elite of the ruling class of Lagos, must have their hand in it. In terms of revenue, if not, you're not moving forward. So imagine how many projects I've stalled. I've sat down with billionaires that have told me they've approached Lagos State and said, we are ready to fund all the train lines. At the same time, we have the dollars. Let us do it. Lagos says no, because they refuse to play ball. So we need a Lagos that enables the private sector to get involved fully and prioritizes the quality of life of Lagosians. That should be sacrosanct. If you look at Lagos and say, in my governance, that is what I want to achieve, the way you do everything will change. And in you doing that, Jakonde also worked with civil service.
Yes.
How come he was able to be successful? Because he embodied what he was preaching. You cannot be stealing, appropriating resources, taking lands that belong to the state, converting guest houses that belong to the state to your private house, getting fat pensions, and expect civil servants not to take bribes. Let's be realistic. There must be sacrifice that's made by the person that's coming into power that's going to show and set the standard for the people behind him to say, okay, you know what? We have eaten. It's now time for the people to eat.
Yes.
It's time to put the people first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, for spending an hour with me.
It was a lovely time. I can't even believe 1 hour has gone by so quickly. Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure.
I will be back
No
when the campaigns kick off.
And you'll be back
in earnest.
and come and interview me in Alausa.
Yes.
In my office.
Amen.
Thank you. She said amen. By the grace of God.
And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajetunmobi.